Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to another episode of the Hog Talk podcast, brought to you by the Sterling Roastery Studios, and where you can hear us on 106.7 in Central Arkansas, part of the Buzz Radio Network, and Believe. Also brought to you by Bet Online, where the game starts. We are supposed to have Makayla Daniels on. There's been a scheduling issue, so we apologize for that. We're going to reschedule that episode interview, have her on sometime before the springtime, before she leaves for her next destination. But really kind of happened at a good time because, Adam, we have a lot to unpack with everything that's going on with Musselman, the Must Bus 3 years later. It's crazy that Pinto actually pointed out the fact that, and I don't know if you caught it, that whole thing of "you're still here" was added to this video. A lot of people was just jumping on, oh, that's a 3-year-old video. That's a 3-year-old video. Well, if you watch the whole thing, that whole part at the end was added to from the original video.
I guess I didn't even watch the end of it.
So that was the thing. And I noticed that, but it didn't think nothing about it until Pinto said, hey, it looks like they just added the whole, hey, are you still here at the end of it. So, but it's crazy that a tweet brings more questions than it did answers. And that's what happened. That's what happened today.
Yeah. I mean, you took everybody like questioning, wondering, then you had a simple sigh of relief, if you will, spread across, but then you had kind of the nitpicking coming out of the video, the dissecting of everything. Like, oh, this video is old. And it was just kind of like, I was looking at it like, I think we're reading too much into a lot of it. Like, hey, he's here. He's posting this. There's still a Must Bus. Let's stop the speculation. But then, yeah, just more speculation came from it after, 10, 20 minutes of it being out there.
Yeah. And the fact of course, everybody dives into the sex and they're done talking about this. And what does it really mean? Musselman hasn't said. And again, we run into the same issue. It's look, half the fan base is going to be right. Half of us are going to be right. Half of us are going to be wrong because you're in a standstill of, see, I told you he was coming back, but now what if he doesn't? Or no, this is fake. He's not coming. He hasn't said nothing. He hasn't tweeted nothing. Nobody else on the staff has said anything, liked it, or tweeted it. So again, was it a good move? I mean, seeing the after facts of it, was it a good move by Hunter Yurchek to do that, or unless this has to go the good way, or it's going to just blow up? Is the way I see it.
Oh yeah, I think if it's something that he did without there being anything on the table, if you will, on a return, I think it can blow up. But you just hope that it was done. When I say mutually, I mean that Musk knew about it. He was okay with it. Because it'll look even worse. It looks a lot worse if we going from not getting any questions to this to it was posted to try to force, say, Coach Musselman's hand at staying. So, I know we've all been waiting for different dominoes to fall when it's come to SMU, when it's come to now USC, when it's come to Louisville, etc. And, even today there's almost all but confirmed. I don't know if it's happened. I got busy at work, but USC's coach was looking at leaving to go to SMU. But then there's a West Coast school that's opened up. That's one of your bigger West Coast schools that's now going to be in the Big Ten. That's now going to have Big Ten money. And it was one of those that, is that a possibility? No, he wants to be back in San Diego area where his mother is. There's just so many different ways you can look at this. And I think we're overdoing it as a fan base. And I get why we are doing it. We don't want them to leave. But we're, more or less driving ourselves crazy over it.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're not in the tournament. I mean, you're waiting for baseball to kick off because that's all we have right now, really, between baseball and softball and the spring sports. But you brought up a point when we were talking off air of, does Hunter Yurchek pay him no matter what? And it's like, people's got to realize there's going to be some hesitancy, because look at how many times giving a coach, whether it be football, basketball, women's basketball, whatever you want to do, say it, that you've given them an extension and it's come back to bite you. So yes, he's went to Elite Eights and Sweet 16s. Now we're looking at a trajectory of where it's at. You can kind of see why he would be like, okay, do I go for it? What do we got coming? He's looking at this kid from Massachusetts and in UMass and his recruiting class coming in. Is that enough to warrant that okay, we're secure for a 3-year deal?
You know, I kind of look at like the stuff that we've seen in the portal, who he's contacted, who is coming up for visits. I kind of look at that and I'm like, he's recruiting for Arkansas. Because I know I've even said myself, like, you can recruit for anywhere, especially in the day and age with the transfer portal. But at the same time, he's recruiting these guys for what he needs here. He doesn't know necessarily what he's going to need at these other places. So it's almost, you know, I look at it like he's not going anywhere for the time being.
Yeah.
You know, I know early in the season, there was talk, there were just random conversations about extensions. And we got into the similar conversation of, okay, let's look at what Kendall Briles did, forcing the hand with extensions to the point that they were like, go. I felt like when Coach Pittman got his extension, that it was a little early. And that was just my gut reaction to it. And then I look at, you know, early in the season, I said that we needed to go out and win more than we've won when we're talking the NCAA tournament for Musselman to get a bigger payday, bigger extension. But then now I'm looking at it where back's against the wall kind of, and I'm just like, you've got to pay him. Because what are you going to get outside of Musselman to replace it? And I just think we're at this point that he kind of, I'm not saying give him a blank check by any means, but if that's what it's going to take, I mean, you need to pay him what he deserves. And when I say that, I think he deserves just outside of the pay of the coaches that have won national championships.
You look at, and I brought him up on Monday. You look at Gonzaga. Look at what they've done since, I want to say, Dan Dickow, you know, his very first star, what, 98, 99? Was that
around there?
And he's still there. And how many national championships have they won? You know, you haven't won one, but still yet. And I'm not going to say he is Dave Van Horn, because he's, you know, Gonzaga is not, I mean, they're elite, but they're not looked at as Arkansas is in baseball. But I'm just looking at the tenure and no championships. He's that style of coach. But nobody's banging for him to, I mean, look what they got. Who are they going to get if they get rid of, just say they get rid of you? Who are they going to get that's going to go to Gonzaga and continue that success? You have to look at that here at Arkansas. All right, who are you going to go get? If you trust that you can go get somebody and they can continue to do what Musselman's done, who's going to lead you to the Elite Eights? Who's going to lead you to the Sweet 16s? That because that's the type of program you are. So you, you might not get there the first year, but who is going to lead you back to those Sweet 16s and Elite Eights? Do you trust the guy you got, or do you go with somebody new in hopes of they bring you to that?
Yeah, I mean, I look at basketball and I think that they would be in a better position than, say, football, of finding a coach to replace Eric Musselman if that's what it came to.
Yeah.
Just because of the recent success, the atmosphere, you know, 19,000 in Bud Walton Arena, etc. I think there is a lot that comes with that. So I think basketball would be better. I'm just looking at it right now. Like, you try not to think about it too much because you're like, he's our coach. He's here. He's recruiting for here. I think if you can get some transfer announcements, commitments this coming week, if we don't know something this weekend, I think that's all your signs completed of, okay, he's here. It's done. We're good to go.
Yeah, and you look at the guy from UMass and the guy from North Carolina, Greensboro. I almost messed up again and said Chattanooga.
Chattanooga, yeah.
But you look at those two guys, and I want to ask your opinion. Do you think that's enough, along with what's coming back? You have those two guys, and with what's coming in, do you think that is enough of a roster to get you to the Sweet 16?
No, I don't.
But that's what you got to look for. And I'm not saying you got to go to the Elite Eight. Get to a Sweet 16. That's your standard now. That's where you're at.
These guys coming in, I kind of go back to your mid-majors comment the other day. If you're going to bring in the mid-majors, you need guys that were scoring 18 to 20 at will in those leagues. I know that when we got in the transfers over the last several years with your Justin Smiths and Stanley Amudes and Jalen Tates, Mason Jones, et cetera, there were guys that I didn't know much about. I questioned them, and it ended up being that I was proven wrong. But, sitting back now after this season, I think it's one of those things that with the recent history, you're kind of jaded on, you're questioning these guys now that you're looking at the portal. We're kind of overlooking the last 4+ seasons of transfers because of this season, because it's so fresh and the season went the way it did. And so, it's kind of hard to look at these guys coming in. My gut reaction is no, it's not enough. But I've been proven wrong before on the transfers that have come in.
Oh yeah, you look at Tate. You look at like Jalen Tate. I mean, I'm trying to. I mean, even the one we were talking about from Indiana, Justin Smith. You look at those guys who've come in and been a spark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can happen. So you got to have the right pieces. And I just know that if you get a guy like the guy from UMass down low, he's going to have to be down low. I mean, I hope he's not. I've not even watched much film on him until, he decides to come to Arkansas. But you look at the fact that he's going to come in. He's going to come in and bang. Is he going to play defense? Is he going to block? So. But we had initially said that we were going to have Makayla on at another time, technical difficulties, but we have a surprise. She has responded. She is here, and we are going to add her to the stage right now. No introductions needed for Makayla Daniels. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank y'all.
Yeah, fine. We're going on a rant with all the stuff with going on the men's side of the basketball team. So we really appreciate you coming. A lot to talk about with your career. Goodness gracious, 5 years have flown by, and being able to have watched you since your freshman year to where you're at now. Just talk about overall your career, your impact, and what it meant to be a Razorback all those years.
I think it was a long 5 years, but it was also a quick 5 years. I can remember my first day on campus, first game, first practice, all that stuff. But I mean, I think I grew so much just as a person off the court in my 5 years here. I did a lot of growing on the court, but I think that I'm most proud of the stuff that I did off the court in order to prepare myself for life after college.
Well, you talk about your first day on campus, your first game. All right, there was no learning curve. Started every game. What was that moment when you're like, okay, this is real. It's here. I'm a Division I basketball player.
I mean, I think I didn't have time to think about it, and I think that's what helped. I didn't know I was starting until right before the game, and so I was nervous, but there wasn't enough time for me to build up that nerves for a whole night or 2 weeks or whatever. So I think that really helped that I was kind of just thrown out there. I think that's the way that I learn. I can probably guarantee that if I came off the bench, I would be a nervous wreck every game, and I would never be able to get into a flow.
Over the 5 years, if you could pick any one moment, what was your best favorite all in moment?
Ooh. I would say Baylor at home. I would say UConn, but the whole team wasn't there when we played UConn, so that's what made Baylor better than the UConn win. But I would say that moment. I mean, it was a crazy year. We were going through all the COVID stuff. didn't know our next game would be canceled or not. So I think that would probably be my best moment, just through all that like chaos. We were able to pull out a win.
Just talk about that year, going through it. I think and we'll go to that UConn game. What really, it was after the game, what stuck to me about, and I want you to explain like this process. Adam, you play a 4-quarter game and the girls were sitting underneath the basket for UConn and they were eating their dinner on the court and brought to them in to-go trays. Like, so after everybody's gone, they're coming out and they're eating food afterwards. So talk about that process, Makayla, of just like traveling and everything, traveling the day of the games. How hard was that?
I personally hated it. Some of my teammates loved it. I did not like it. I felt like I never had my legs, especially I think like to South Carolina is probably our furthest flight in the SEC, but that just felt like 10 times of a longer flight just because we didn't have our legs. But like I said, I didn't really care for it, but I also saw like the benefits of it. Like we're in and out that quick. But I just did not. I did not prefer to show up before the game. Only 3 hours before the game, and that's all we're doing. No, I need more preparation than that.
Yeah, and the UConn game wouldn't even happened if it wasn't for COVID. Because I believe if I'm right, you were playing South Carolina, and then you're like, "Hey, do y'all want to play UConn?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we didn't even have like a week to notice that we were going to play them, if I can remember right.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the most, but I got to throw Vandy in there. I got to throw the buzzer beater in there. We can't go without mentioning. I thought that's where you were going to go with it. So, but I mean, again, when there's so many, things that happen, you look at the year before last in the SEC tournament and beat Missouri, coming back and winning that game. And then of course the Vanderbilt game, there's so much that to go on what you did with your career and talk about the players that, your teammates that you've been able to play alongside and how much they meant to you growing into this role of this year being your team.
I would say I'll probably start off like with the teammates that I had my freshman year, especially the group that I came in with, even though we're not all here still. I think like we built such a good foundation, like as friends that year, that like all that, oh, I wonder if I'm going to fit in with my team, or like that part was like not an issue for me. I wasn't concerned with that. So that kind of gave us all that confidence to be comfortable with each other on the court. And then just like a lot of the upperclassmen would take us under their wings and like explain stuff to us about, because how we do stuff here is very different than a lot of different programs. So kind of explaining to us like, yeah, it's going to take you a minute to get this, but like eventually you'll get it. And so like seeing all that stuff that they did for me and just wanting to like pay it forward and do that for somebody else so that they can do it for someone else too. So I think just a lot of that, especially a lot of the vocal leaders that we've had in the past, helped me kind of find my own voice.
Looking at the pros and the cons of, we'll just say, go with the transfer portal, being a player that stayed, didn't go. How is it staying on a team to like watch, teammates that you've come to love leave and then basically meshing with new people that have come in?
I think it's hard at first because a lot of the times you're losing one of your closest friends in that process. But I think a few months later, when like you see them with their new team, you're just so proud of them because like it's like, okay, this may not have been for you, but you found a place that was for you. And obviously for your friends, you want that for them. So it's kind of cool to see. And it just makes you really proud. Like, wow, we came in as freshmen or whenever together, and now you're just we're both flourishing. But what was the second part of the question?
Just like players coming in. I think it's a little bit different than like a high school senior coming into a new team. So a player that's maybe already been established with a previous team, is it a little bit more difficult to mesh with than a high school senior coming in?
I would say it's a little bit easier actually, just because they have that experience of the college level and kind of what's expected. I would just say that makes it a little bit easier. They just catch on quicker than a freshman would. But for the most part, I think, and it kind of depends on the person, just how they learn. But for the most part, I think they're quicker.
And do you think, with that transfer portal, you're trying to grow as a player, but yet grow with different teammates? I mean, how hard was it knowing that not so much the people leaving, but facing them the next year, like they were your teammates. Now you're going head to head against them. How was that difficult, or was that one of the things that, okay, we're going to play them twice a year, first game's out of the way and the rest of it's a piece of cake?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say there's any, like, for me at least, there's no difference. I mean, I'm a competitor, so on the court we're going to compete, but after, we're going to get a picture, we're going to be the best of friends or whatever. So I wouldn't say that it's weird or anything. And I also think it depends on what type of relationship you had with that person while they were here. But for all the people that we've had transfer out, I mean, it's been a good warm welcome from us and from them, just because you're getting to see your old friends again. But like I said, we're going to compete on the court, and then after, we can laugh about it and we'll text each other and tell us good luck in all the other games.
So the fans, I mean, again, going from your freshman year to your senior year, the growth we watched, I mean, hardly anybody coming into the arena to watching 5 to all the crazy kindergarten, elementary day games. I mean, is that going to be one of the things that you miss, but yet not miss, or those elementary games at 10 o'clock in the morning? Is that, how much is that going to stick with you?
Definitely will miss elementary games. Those are my favorite game days. I won't miss the having to wake up early for a 10:30 tip, but yeah, definitely one of my favorite days. Just seeing those kids' joy, and it's like they don't care if we win or lose. They really don't care who we are at all. They just want to say they went to a Razorback game. They cheer for both teams. You get a turnover, they're going to cheer. So it's really a good atmosphere whenever they come.
With I guess we'll say the evolution of NIL and such, how surreal was it to see like your character, your face on t-shirts and whatnot being sold in stores? And
definitely weird, because I'm just like, why would somebody want a shirt with my face on it? Like, like I could understand, but I was like, I don't really think people will buy it. And I see people wearing it, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess people would do that. So I mean, I'm glad that they would do it.
Well, and then the evolution of women's basketball altogether. We see right now it's probably higher, if not just as high as when I was in high school watching the UConn-Tennessee rivalry. I mean, I've been a UConn women's basketball fan since the mid-'90s with Lobo, and then, of course, the coach at Vandy, Shea Raff, was one of my favorite players. See how everything's evolved with the popularity. What does that mean? You said it. Somebody's wearing your jersey. You see 8-year-old little girls wearing your jersey. How much does that mean to you when you're in the middle of the game and you happen to glance up and you see someone wearing your jersey?
It means a lot, because I can remember being that little girl, or having to make a shirt out of, puffy paint, because they didn't sell college women's jerseys when I was a kid. But I mean, I think it just puts it into perspective, like, pay it forward and be that person that so many basketball players were for you. Be that role model for those little girls that are watching.
Where do you think, what do you think's next for, women basketball, or women's college basketball? It's higher than it's ever been, the popularity. And look, when people are rooting, and I want to say this as a fan, you could be for or against. If you're rooting against somebody, that means you care enough to root against, whether you're on Caitlin Clark's side or Angel Reese's side or Maryland's side or UConn. How much have you seen the game evolve, just the popularity in women's basketball from, I mean, even just say post-COVID? I mean, you can even go post-COVID, how much the game's grown.
It's definitely grown a lot. I think social media has been a big part in that. But I also think the people that we have in women's college basketball right now are a big part of that. And I'm appreciative for them, because people are finally realizing, like, what we do is the same as men's basketball. NBA players do the same thing as WNBA players. The pay is just different. But I think it's good for the game. I think it's good that we're being talked about. I don't like that, women get talked about differently than men because we're women. But I mean, I'm glad that there's just talk about us at all at this point. And I think then we can move into the, okay, just because she's a woman doesn't mean she's not capable of X, Y. But I like that I'm scrolling on my time.
Good.
Huh?
Oh, sorry.
My audio cut out.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
So what is next for you after all this at Arkansas?
I definitely want to go play overseas. I've always liked traveling, so that just gives me another reason to travel, and I still get to do what I love. So, and I think that I need to seize that opportunity while I can, because let's say I take 2 years off, there's no telling in 2 years if I'm still going to be capable of running down the court.
And that's the thing, you know, with your upbringing and travel and military family. I mean, I think that, you know, that will help you. You're used to that and you love it. So the love of going over to overseas and become a better you and have what we see, I've seen overseas fans and videos. I mean, it's nothing like here.
Mhm.
It's like college football on steroids when you see people just chanting and having, you know, and then of course you're getting to witness other cultures. I know that has to be exciting, but when does that process start? Like, okay, you're wanting to go overseas, so when can you start like testing the waters in your camps and stuff? I mean, when does that process start?
Well, they have a lot of combines and like camps at the Final Four for people that are exploring their options. So I would say that's when it really starts. I don't really think after that there's like big time camps, but I'm sure there's things like to do if you want to be seen or whatever. But I think the biggest ones are at during the Final Four.
Well, Makayla, I had this talking about shirts with your face on it. Look, I took my son to the game and he had to get one of these. So this is going to go up next to the 23 for 23 in the studio that I have behind me. So
Okay, I
forever,
did it.
forever going to be in the Hog Talk studio.
Thank you.
Look, it was a pleasure to cover you, your team, and without going into specific details, I had to make sure that I got off the naughty list, was able to come watch your final game because, you know, there for a while I didn't have the access that at one time to cover the team. So I had to make it a pact to get there to watch your final game there in Bud Walton Arena. And can't thank you enough for choosing Arkansas, what you've meant to the program and helping being one of those pillars for the university.
Thank you.
Well, best of luck to you in your next, and we're going to be following you and rooting for you on the way. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that was Makayla Daniels. Oh, another legend. You know, she's up there with Ramirez, up there with Dungy. You know, one of those greats that you wish that she could have got that NCAA tournament win. You know, she wanted to leave it better than when she got here.
Mm-hmm.
What you really wished for her?
You know, it's one of those that you're going to miss. Whether you don't right now, I think in the future, you're going to look back and be just, you know, truly appreciate what she did in her time here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing. Yes, exactly. You nailed it. You know, everybody can be mad at the program and the state of the program. And I'll put Devo in that category. You know, no matter where you're at with that person or where the program is, you still got to remember what that person did for your program. You still got to remember what they meant to the university. And I know if they choose to go elsewhere, they still meant something to we're talking about Elite Eights. There wouldn't be an Elite Eight if it wasn't for Devo. You know, there wouldn't be the magic of what Makayla did against Vanderbilt or going against Baylor and beating Baylor. You know, there wouldn't be those moments. And somebody who you talk about transfer portal could have went anywhere in the SEC and played, didn't.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really tough. You know, you look at the players who have come and gone, and when I say come and gone, I mean transferred out, didn't stick around, and you know, even looking back and seeing what the likes of Makayla contributed to the program, just the fact that she also gutted it out with the program, you know, highs and lows, says a lot about the character too.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like she goes overseas and plays, and she'll always remember what it was like to the grind of playing for Arkansas. And hopefully, you know, when it goes to that professional where she's at, you know, because there's been other that's tried it. There's been others. Tolfree's went overseas, Ramirez has went overseas, and Ramirez is now coaching and doing. I think she's at a junior high or high school coaching right now. So you wish them nothing but the best on that. Moving along back to the baseball game, I believe I've had it right. It's 2-1 LSU right now.
Correct.
And so hopefully Arkansas can get back on the right track with that. It's something you don't expect. You see that Arkansas is behind on the first game of the series. So, but we knew this coming in.
Yeah.
LSU was going to be tough. They were going to be ready to play.
This was really, it's one that we've all been waiting for, but at the same time, you're just kind of on the edge of your seat, if you will. Just every little good thing and bad thing, you're just like under a microscope at this point of the game.
Yeah. Looking at the stats right now, Arkansas is batting bottom of the fourth, 2-1 LSU. They got 2 runs in the 4th inning. So I'm trying to see. Hagen Smith still pitching, 2 runs on 2 hits. He has 6 strikeouts. So still a 1-1 game. Anything can happen. Bottom of the 4th. We'll keep you updated as we go along with the broadcast. But we'll go back to the original topics of what we were talking about and just everything that's happened. Let's just put this aspect out there. The tweet's been put out. What happens to the fan base? What happens to Hunter Yurachek if this comes out and Musselman goes somewhere else? What is that aspect of it? What do you think is going to happen if that goes down that way?
I think there's going to be you're going to get a lot of "I told you so's" from the groups of folks that were really kind of dissecting and nitpicking things. Because at the same time, we're getting that right now, the "I told you so's" from the other side of it that said he wasn't going anywhere. So I think from I don't feel like it's been picked up or anything that I've seen from a national standpoint. So I don't think you're necessarily in a predicament there. But I would imagine that you'd have Hunter Yurachek come out after the fact, if that happens, for damage control. That, hey, when I posted this, that, this was what was on the table. This is the impression that I had. This is where I thought we were at. And that, but he could also just say, we moved in a different direction, or Coach Musselman wanted to move in a different direction. We're all in that speculation mode right now. So
I would be shocked if he didn't. Because and I'm just going on the fact of the tweet. The fact I don't think that he is that uncalculated that he wouldn't know what he was doing when he put it out there.
2-2 Arkansas home run.
All right, there we go. Back in it.
Yeah. Jack Wagner.
Oh, here we go. Talk show during the hog baseball. I know, baby, but we got some bills to pay around here. You know what I'm saying? So look, there's not everybody who can, and look, we're recording it. So if you can't catch it, you're at the baseball game. You can always watch us on Facebook or any Instagram, Twitter. We're all over the place, even YouTube. So we do apologize. We know that it's a big series, but it's what we do. We try to come to you live twice a week. Sometimes baseball interferes when you're playing 3-4 games a week.
And we still got the game going. So
shut that down. We don't get a C&D.
No, true.
Too much of a clip. But no, but you got to think about that. Like, I just don't think he is. I wouldn't say dumb, because
I knew. Yeah, no, that was what. It's not that, and you don't want to use that phrase because it's not it. But it's like you don't want him to have had the wool pulled over his eyes.
Yeah, because that would be, because look, that and this is just being honest, because with the whole, Bobby Petrino comeback was a saving grace for the football program as a fan standpoint, and not the pitchforks and the firing. If this turns out and you get the wool over your head on this, people's going to start, and there already are some little kindlings of people thinking that Hunter Yurachek doesn't do this and he don't that. And I think there was one point somebody said that when we had Makayla on, I totally forgot about that point of people saying because they didn't fire Coach Neighbors, he doesn't care about women's sports. And I want to say this about Hunter Yurchek. Every time there's been a women's coach that has had success, he has given them an extension. Every single one of them. Coach Hale, Coach Watson, Carter, Coach Johnson, their track program, they're going to get theirs because that's what track is. But Coach Taylor, you've seen all these. Watson got an extension after his Elite Eight run and being Coach of the Year. You can't sit there. Coach Weeper's got an extension. You can't sit there. Coach Deifel. Every single one of these coaches have gotten paid for what they have done at this university. And you got to applaud him for that. He's paid them, and he's not waited. As soon as they get done with the season and there's negotiations, he's giving them money. So I don't want to hear people say, well, he doesn't care about women's athletics when he cares about them probably more than a lot of ADs do. And we've had talks with coaches that they don't care about any of their sport. They want their football program doing good, and that's it. They don't want to share. So I think that's kind of asinine to say that he doesn't care about the women's athletics. You're letting your gymnastics team come into Bud Walton Arena and grow to where at some point they're going to play all their meets in Bud Walton Arena. So let's not get on the high horse of saying he don't care about the women's athletics.
I mean, I look at it like he, out of most athletic departments that you see, is up there with any of them in the running for cares the most about his overall athletic department.
Yeah.
Because you look at, I mean, yes, I know football and basketball and baseball obviously take the limelight to everything else because they're your money makers, whatever. But from top to bottom, I mean, we've got some of the best all-around programs in the country. Unfortunate part besides track is you don't have the national championships to back that up. But at the same time, you have almost every other accolade with it.
Well, and you're consistently in the top 10 of the Challenge Cup, top 5, top 4. I don't know exactly the highest they've ever finished in those rankings, but at one time, I think they were number 1. I want to go back to the year that, Pittman, the football team and the basketball team, softball, everybody was winning SEC championships. You're there in the running, but I know the schools out west, they play so many more sports than.
Yeah, Stanford's always up there.
Because they play in 48 different sports. I mean, you do water polo and cricket or whatever, but it is what it is. And that just makes it more significant that you got all these schools that are playing all these different sports that, if somebody's got to say, oh, you're just a track school, that's you, those don't count. You're just look at your 2 total to our 50 total. And of course, that's why you're saying what you're doing, and it's still a national championship. It's still an SEC championship. No matter how you swing it, you're still playing the sport.
So I think a lot will come. I mean, obviously, I wish today that was a solid moment that we know, like no more questions, but, inquiring minds start digging in. And I'm just taking with it right now that he's our coach. He's still in the portal. He's still recruiting. We've got recruits and transfers coming in to visit. So as far as I'm concerned, until they say otherwise, it's a done deal, dead issue, if you will. And as it should be.
Yeah. He should be the head coach. I mean, and everybody's, and there's been talks about, Danielle wanting to do this and that. And, look, she does a lot for the university. I mean, suits and sneakers. She's part of the Heart Association. She has her own platform and has done very well of submitting herself as her own person when it comes to what she does for, charity work in Northwest Arkansas and her voice out there. She was at the softball game last weekend against Mississippi State, for women's empowerment. It's one of the things that she and, Eric have done an amazing job when it's come to charity and what they've done with that suits and sneakers in Northwest Arkansas. And the day and age we live in, you can do anything you want from anywhere now. You don't have to necessarily live in California to do this. I mean, when you have the necessities that you have, let's just be honest, you could be from XNA to California in a matter of hours. So, I mean, that's the thing and I love that the fact that what she has been able to do from a coach's wife standpoint, she has made a name for herself. And we've had her on the show a couple of times to talk about those things. That is the biggest part of that would be hard to walk away from it. It would be hard to turn your back on after one bad year or whatever. And then that happens. I don't see it. I just see so much, and your kids are involved, and Mariah, people going and asking her questions and stuff. It's just, I know it gets tired, but you're going to get that anywhere. But I think their feet is set right now, as of right now in Arkansas. And I, again, would be shocked that if he was not the head coach next year.
I think everybody's wheels just turning. Some folks are just trying to grasp on any possible thing that could get them to leave.
Yeah.
I've said since December that in my gut that he wasn't going anywhere when a lot of this stuff started. And I'm still sticking to that. I just don't see, besides going out west to be closer to I don't see what the benefit to going to any other university in this country would be for you.
No, there's no better facilities.
You have the money, you have the facilities, you have the fan base. Exactly. You have an entire state that you're not competing with any program, any professional sport, anything.
Exactly. Go to Dallas, you're competing against pro and other Texas. You're still Texas. I mean, you like when people was talking about the Louisville job. You really think Eric Musselman wants to be little brother to Kentucky, no matter if Cal's there or who the next coach is there? No, he don't want to do that.
Well, even going out, with some of the speculation with USC now that job might come open because it is West Coast, it's back to California. You're not even the top dog in your own city. I mean, you're not. So, do you want that? I mean, you've got you're in the limelight to an extent, but at the same time, if you're to go there now, you're overshadowed by a son of a current NBA player that people love to hate on.
Yeah. Well, and let's put this out there. We didn't even talk about this part. We're talking about family. Do you really want to go to USC and be going to Northwestern? You want to be flying to Maryland? You want to be doing a back-to-back to Maryland to Michigan, Ann Arbor, Ohio State, back to USC, and then back to Purdue? Yeah. Do you want that to be your travel style? I mean, something nobody's even talking about when it comes to it's easy in football because you can leave on a Wednesday, practice, and then play a game on a Saturday. What happens when these back-to-backs start happening when you're going from LAX to Chicago to Maryland, then all the way back across the country to USC? Do you want that as your lifestyle when it comes to being a head coach on top of head coach? And that's a big issue.
Well, and I think that's one thing that, we looked at the travel when they were announced, the Big Ten expansion was announced of these football schools, because it is what it is. Football makes the most money. It's the most conversation. But looking at, USC and UCLA having to go to Rutgers, I think Rutgers was the furthest trip. But yeah, it's going to be even more when you've got 2 games in a week in basketball and you're having to go that far away. Because, the first season, they made, you might ease your way into it. As the season goes on, season 2, season 3, season 4, that's going to wear off. But it's going to be like, no, you're going to have the full-blown schedule. You're going to be traveling all over the place. And then also, you're going to an arena that I think holds 4,000 to 6,000 people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's all it holds.
Yeah. And also, another thing that goes into that and going down this rabbit hole that we're going with, the fact that this is football driven. I think they should be the ones, if it's the NCAA or if it's the football program, I think they should be the ones that's fitting the bill for all the other programs travel, because this is a specifically football driven decision. And if we're making all these super conferences in football, look at the softball, look at the track, look at every other sport that has to travel and they're having to fly or bus or whatever. I think you should be able to make their travel easier because of the decision you're making for football.
I'd really like to see, I mean, obviously we know that the thing behind all of this is money, but I would just like to be a fly on the wall on some of these conversations when they're talking expansion, when they're talking logistics, when they're talking about their reasons why. I don't want any dog in the fight. I just want to sit there and listen.
Yeah,
and
maybe
serum. Yeah, and maybe give my occasional opinion of how idiotic some of this has become.
And that's the way it is. It's going to continue to be that way. And with TV money and stuff, but they'll be able to afford more, do more. And I'm sure once everybody gets in the routine of it, it's going to be just another day. But, you think about baseball and I want to throw baseball, track, softball, golf, where you're traveling and you're playing multiple days. Like, say Arkansas, could you imagine them flying out to Stanford for a 3-game series, and then now you got to go to Ann Arbor?
Mm-hmm.
You think about those. Now you're hopping on a plane, playing a 3-game series on the road. Then you got to come back and either do it again, or you're playing 2 days later and throw a midweek series game in on top of that.
It's going to be. I mean, where you're getting into, there's issues and questions behind NIL, but then it's at one point with all this expansion, is it too much on the athlete, the players, that are dealing with all the added travel that's going to be coming for the other sports that play more than 12 games a year?
Well, and I'm not going to say that, I'm the only one that's ever said this or the first that said this, but listen, they're getting paid now. This is not coming from me. This is probably coming from like the NCAA. This is probably coming from, we're talking about those truth serum conversations. Hey, they're getting paid now. They're talking about doing all this work for free or all these games for free. They get a college education, but now they're getting paid now. Now we got to make more money because the players are making money. So what are they going to do? Let's make super conferences. Let's do all this stuff. They don't care about the travel. They don't care about the student athlete. They're going to come out and say their little safety slogans, but they care about money, and that's it. And that's why I will always stand by. I don't care how much money they make, because of you're asking these kids to do so much when it comes to the more they're going to get paid. Now we'll just see where the landscape of college football and basketball is in 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And then revisit, do they deserve to get paid?
I think that you're going to see the actual super conference thing. My guesstimate was around 2030. If it wasn't already in place at that point, the more the rumblings, it's going to start coming to truth. It's going to start coming to light a little bit more. You start adding, because what are we at now? 16 in the SEC. So I'm going to say it's 2024. By 2027, I think you're going to be at 20. And then by 2030, you're going to have that discussion on, are we moving to 30 plus teams? Are we going to 3 to 4 super conferences? And is separating from the NCAA going to happen? Are we going to have basically your super conferences have their own championships, and then your group of fives having their own championship? I mean, there's so much that's going to happen in this next 5 to 7 years.
We got an update from Baum Walker. Arkansas is up 3-2. Stovall single to right field, scoring White 3-2 in the bottom of the 4th. 2 outs. Eloy's got a 1-2 count on him. So
runners on the corner.
We're going to start our new little thing. When we get some breaking news during the podcast, we're going to break in with our little 3-second little logo sign and pop in and break some news. But going to the top of the 5th now, 3-2 Arkansas. Hagen Smith still on the mound for Arkansas. So we'll keep you updated for the final minutes of the podcast as we wrap things up. But there's a lot to unpack, and man, it's weird because we're going to come to you on Monday. It's a holiday. A lot of people's not going to be working tomorrow, Easter weekend. So don't be surprised if this thing doesn't happen till Monday or Tuesday. I mean, I don't know. I never know how these things work, but also don't be surprised if you're in the middle of your Easter egg hunt with your kids and all of a sudden your phone starts blowing up. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you never know how things are going to end, but I really hope he stays. unless there's some kind of contract thing that they just can't agree with. He wants more money and they're not going to give it to him. I don't know. That's the only thing I could see is him not coming back to be the head coach at Arkansas. And I don't know. But again, I think whichever way happens, and I'm going to say if he doesn't come back, if he doesn't come back to Arkansas, there's going to be more people that are wanting to be right so bad that they're not going to realize what is happening. They're just so set on, see, I told you so, opposed to, damn, we just lost our head coach. Damn, he went somewhere else. And just to sit there and prove that you were right. You know, you have all these people on there. They have something to say about everything. It's never positive, and it's just miserable that everything you say, they got something to pop off about. And it's like they want to be right so bad, they can't stand it.
Mm-hmm. I think we're in, like I said, I'm sitting back thinking everything's actually just fine and good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm rolling with. I know that there's a lot of PTSD in the past of coaches leaving or getting used by coaches for more money, whether, whatever the case may be. We've been burned. And so I'm just going to take this with, this is just a little bump in the road. It's a bunch of hearsay. It's a bunch of stuff that was stirred up that wasn't necessarily accurate. So he's our coach. We're good. Let's move forward.
Yep.
Because honestly, at the end of the day, is it not tiring just seeing the constant back and forth from folks on you're not right, I'm right, your source sucks, mine doesn't. I mean, it's just constant back and forth that is just exhausting.
If people can have civil conversations like Cabo and Mike Irwin, having two disagreeing sides of it, but having a civil conversation, that's what we want. That's why we have debate shows. And that's why we have things like sometimes we don't disagree, but we're able to, you say your side, I say my side, and we move on with it. That's the way it should be. Two people having conversations, and that way you see both sides. But you have a lot of it is they don't listen to the other side. They can't wait to talk, or they can't wait for their side to be right. And that's where we got to get to, is where just have a discussion about it. That's why we have shows like this. If we have differences, opinions, or hot topics, we talk about them, give our ideas and thoughts, and discuss things. That's what's good about sports, is people can come together even with the difference of opinions and have civil conversations.
Well, and like we've brought up before on here, we've asked folks, people will sit behind a keyboard, but they don't want to come in front of the camera and have the conversations.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, like, let's talk face to face. Let's talk on camera. It doesn't have to be hidden behind a keyboard. Let's talk about it. But also, it doesn't make anybody less of a person, less of a man to agree to disagree and move on.
Exactly.
Because I don't know anybody in the history of anything that had their mind changed on a comment back and forth.
Exactly.
So a random meme didn't change my perception of what was going on.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, we hope we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Crazy. I mean, look, everybody who's tuning in right now during an LSU first game, love all of our fans, love everything that y'all do, comment, interact. We love being able to interact with every single one of you. And again, even if your sides are, not ours, we still take them in, respond. It's just those kind of out-of-pocket comments that we hide and stuff, because there's no room for that kind of nonsense. But we hope everybody has a wonderful Easter weekend holiday, Good Friday if you're not working tomorrow. But we're going to come to you live 6:30 on Monday, hopefully recapping Arkansas sweep over LSU, other news, and maybe we'll know by then on if he's staying or going. So we appreciate you. Adam, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. Just you hope for the best this weekend and all the sports and coaching news, etc. And everybody enjoy their Easter.
Well, that will do it for this episode of Hog Talk Podcast. For Adam, I'm Porter Hayes. We will come to you Monday night, brought to you by Bet Online. Don't forget to download the Autograph app. We bring that up. Download the Autograph app. Promo code Hog Talk. Get in on the action. All the podcasts. We'll be right up after this episode. Be right up there on the Autograph app. All the best articles, news from the weekend. We'll catch you on Monday.